Welcome, everyone. My name is Jennifer Keeby. I'm president at Campus Philly. We are so pleased to be part of Innovation Weekend, an event really celebrating all of the innovative spirit across Philadelphia presented by One Philadelphia. Now, Campus Philly is an organization that thinks a lot about college students. We think about the recruitment of college students to our region, the engagement of college students while they're here, and certainly the retention of college students once they graduate. We want you to find an internship and a job that you love and fall in love with the city and stay in this greater Philadelphia region, really to launch your career and your life. And we've been part of this really dynamic initiative for the last 2 years called the Most Diverse Tech Hub. Now, this initiative is part of the city of Philadelphia's goal to become the most diverse tech hub in the nation. And really a lot of resources have been placed behind making sure that diverse college students and diverse folks from all paths of life really can find themselves a spot in the really booming tech sector in Philadelphia. So today I'm joined by three professionals who are on the scene in the tech industry. We've profiled them this year, really celebrating their stories as diverse leaders in tech. And we're going to talk to them a little bit more today about their experiences. So without further ado, I'm going to let each panelist introduce themselves. Dominique, I'm going to come right to you first. I'd love for you to share your name, your role, your company, and your connection to the Philadelphia region.
Yeah, of course. So hi, I'm Dominique. I am a senior software engineer at Elastic. Elastic is a leading open source search platform. We actually help some of your favorite web apps like Yelp and Wikipedia actually offer search to their customers. So we're the technology that powers like search on Yelp and Wikipedia and other platforms, other like apps that need to have search on their website. And we also help our users actually search through terabytes of their own data as well. I graduated from the University of Pennsylvania with a degree in sociology. So I did not study computer science or anything tech related. I have been living in Philadelphia post-graduation for about 5 years or so, and I'm really just here because I love it. I've been enjoying it tremendously ever since I've been here, and yeah, I'm looking forward to talk to you more about my experiences.
Dominique, thank you so much for sharing your opening. Jobi, I'm going to come to you. Same questions. Tell us a little bit about your role, your company, and your connection to the greater Philadelphia region.
Yeah, thanks, Jen. So, hey everyone, my name is Jobi. I am a customer success manager at CampusESP. We're an ed tech startup in Center City, Philadelphia. We mostly focus on communications for families, whether it be on the current or prospective side of the house for their student. And a little bit about myself. Actually originally from North Jersey, but moved to Philly for college. Graduated from Temple University back in 2019 and really just stayed in the Philly area since then. Tried a bunch of different roles, first working out of the city in King of Prussia, and then moved back into the city when I got connected with Venture for America, and they got me in contact with CampusESP. So have really been loving living in Philly for the past, oh my God, I think like 7 years at this point. And just being immersed in the tech scene has been great. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Jobi, thanks so much. Anshika, tell me a little bit more about your story. You know, you're still a student, so I would love to hear a little bit more about that, but also your connection to the Philly region and really your really interest in the tech sector.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. So hi, everyone. My name is Anshika. I am a sophomore studying at Drexel University. I study management info systems and business analytics in the LeBeau College of Business. I'm a project management and UX research intern here at Draft Studios located in Philly. And my connection to Philly really just is just going to school here. I'm originally from Central Jersey. And and then my interest in the tech sector has kind of recently started, but it's definitely grown a lot with my internship. And I'll kind of talk more about that during this panel.
Wonderful. We're so glad that you're here. So really this first question is for anyone to jump in and answer first. You know, oftentimes when you're thinking about the career you're going to pursue, you may be able to pinpoint a moment, an aha moment that really made all the difference for you. I'm curious if any of you experienced that phenomenon as you considered your career in tech. What was that aha moment that said, yeah, this sector is for me and I can see myself really growing professionally in this space?
Yeah, I can say two moments for me. So I actually started out doing a lot of internships for various nonprofits. I was working kind of in communications and marketing, and I was doing a lot of managing of websites through like WordPress and other types of content management systems. And I just really wanted to be able to do my job well. So I kind of started learning a little bit of HTML to be able to do some custom things in WordPress, and then a little bit of CSS, again, to try to spruce up the websites that I was managing at the time. And at that point, once I started learning HTML and CSS, it immediately clicked in the sense that I just loved it. I got so much joy from it. I just got so much joy from, trying to kind of start making my own, websites and my own apps. And I was engrossed in it. I was enamored by it. And I was staying up like all hours, like after work. I wanted to come home and learn, JavaScript and HTML and CSS and build websites. This is what I really wanted to be doing. And when I realized I could spend hours on it was when I realized that I'd love to spend 8 hours a day doing it professionally. So that was one of them. And then I also started meeting a lot of people who were working in the tech industry, and those interactions, which I could talk about a little bit more later, I really enjoyed everyone I met. I loved all of the new relationships I was making, and I found everyone pretty interesting and funny and, fun to hang around. And so I was like, yeah, these are the types of people I'd love to work with. And that hypothesis has been true. I've worked with really great people over every single one of my jobs that a lot of them that I'm still very close with. Some of them came to my wedding. So yeah, it's been really great. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. Congratulations. It's exciting to hear really your path. Jobi, tell me about your aha moment. Has it hit yet? Did you have one?
Yeah, I don't know if I could pin that down to a singular moment. I think I've had maybe multiple aha moments where I think, at least back in college, right, I didn't know exactly, I'm going to land in tech, but I've had a variety of internships, right? My degree in college, I majored in finance and I minored in management information systems, but really had a whole variety of internships I've had. One was more of a sales role, another was kind of working on project management, another one in corporate banking. And from each of those experiences, I learned that I didn't want to do those things, right? Or I didn't want to work in those industries. So that kind of helped gear me towards, okay, where did I want to move after graduation? And it just so happened that I got the opportunity at this tax SaaS company outside of the city. And from there, I don't want to really call it an aha moment because I was still kind of figuring out where I wanted to land. But within that environment, I truly enjoyed not only the people I was working with, but then also the tools I was dealing with on a day-to-day basis, as well as the flexibility of working in tech, right? Because there are so many different things that you might be using. I started out in a more of a CS and consulting role, but then later on, I moved more into BI, business intelligence, and then moving on to CampusESP, right? There's so many different things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. My main role is in CS, but I'm doing a bunch of other things too. So I think I'm still continually having those aha moments where, oh yeah, I really like this, and then maybe not this so much, but the path has put me on a tech, or at least a tech industry path forward. So I don't know, Jen. There's probably multiple aha moments when it comes to that.
And they're still coming. They're confirming that you're on the right track and this is the space that you belong. That's good. That's really good to hear. Yeah. Anshika, I'm going to come to you and ask the question a little differently because you're still early in your career, but I know Drexel students very well. Drexel students, in my mind, often come into school with this laser beam focus of what they plan to do after graduation. There's the whole co-op system. Is that your experience as well? Did you come into Drexel knowing this is what you wanted, or was there an aha moment along the way for you?
So funny enough, I did know what I want exactly. And I've known that since I was 15, but then I came to college and then I changed my mind.
Fair enough, yeah.
Right. It's funny because I was so hyped. Like that was one of the main reasons I even chose Drexel, was because like they had this one specific major that I really liked, and like I still like it, and like I still talk to my friends in that major, but it's not necessarily like my big thing right now, because I realized that like I want to explore other options. So I started off as like a user experience and interaction design major, which funny enough, because I'm still doing UX, but I realized that like with that major, that kind of limited my capabilities within the tech sector, because I would only be able to get UX jobs. So I switched over to business because I do like business and tech, and I wanted to do things more in the product management space and business analyst and BI space kind of. And so because I wanted to do more stuff there, and also UX, I realized that like I could hone those skills in other ways. So I've done like professional certificates, I've done like boot camps and things like that. And then I'm also minoring in like human computer interaction, which plays into the UX research role. It helps me with that. And so I've like definitely switched over my stuff. So I guess that was my aha moment, kind of realizing that I want to pursue more than just UX. But initially learning about UX was, I was at like a family friend party, and someone had brought it up to me when I talked about my like love for web development and just like creating websites, because I'd won a competition for it in high school. And so that was my aha moment for that. But then I think I had another one in college where I was like, maybe I want to do even more than this.
And who knows, you might have a few more, but you're bringing up so many good points. You know, the fact that the tech sector is vast. And so whether you're coming in with hopes of being a UX designer or a programmer or, you know, whatever the case is, that's all well and good, but there are so many other components that support the tech sector. So you could absolutely be a business analyst working in this space. You could work in HR and support the tech sector. So there really are so many vast opportunities for young people to find themselves, no matter what their exact career choice is, but in the tech sector, especially here in Philadelphia. So I love that you're sharing that. And I think your experience is, you know, it's exactly what it needs to be for a college student. You're coming in with big dreams and big goals, and you're pivoting appropriately. So that's great. I think that's wonderful. So Dominique, I'm going to come back over to you. You know, I'm really curious about the sense of community in the tech sector here in Philadelphia. And I think for young people entering a new industry, it can be really important for folks to find and connect with a community of peers who are also interested in the same things, the same industry, the same professional goals that they are. Can you talk a little bit more about how you connected with the tech community in Philadelphia, and if those connections influenced your career growth at all?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I got involved in the Philadelphia tech community purely out of curiosity. I was trying to learn to code, and you know, I was going through online tutorials, places like Codecademy, and buying classes from Udemy, but I was really excited to see affordable classes offered locally as well. At the time that I was learning to code, in particular, there was classes offered by various like women in tech communities, like Girl Develop It, and I got involved in those just so I could learn. And when there, I got so much more than just like the pure knowledge of you know, that individual topic that they were teaching. But I got a chance to meet a lot of women who were in the same position as me, who were also like, you know, kind of trying to learn the code, maybe also trying to switch careers. As I mentioned, I didn't graduate with CS, so at the time I was trying to switch careers. But not only did I meet people in the same position as me, I met people who were in the position I wanted to be in. I got to meet the instructors and the teaching assistants. And what was really wonderful is that this community was so supportive. Obviously, we know that, you know, the representation for minorities and women in tech is, yeah, can be a little bit on the lower side. And so they all wanted to support me, and they wanted to support women and minorities in general. And because of that, it was such a close-knit community that really wanted to help each other and bolster people up. And so that really gave me a launching pad for my career. I met a lot of mentors, actually. I've met a few people who were really championing for me, and it just felt so great. Those people were people who gave me volunteer projects to do, who told me how to like kind of change my LinkedIn in ways that would optimize my chances as a career switcher. they gave me opportunities to become a TA for those same classes that I took. So that kind of solidified some more of my knowledge and also helped position me as, someone who was knowledgeable, even though I was still trying to, get into my first role. And yeah, I wanted to then get even more involved in that community because of everything they gave me. So I started, like I mentioned, doing more TAing, but also doing like different types of like leadership roles in some of those communities, just, trying to help plan events and things like that. And it really made my entire career switching experience just that much more enjoyable because I really just met people I enjoyed being around and made it bearable, like, because it's obviously tough finding a new job without a degree in that particular field. So it really just made my experience that much better and really, really helped my outcomes when it came to looking for a job in the end.
That's fantastic that you found such a community that was so receptive and ready to support you. And are you still really plugged into that community in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I haven't been as much. I would love to get back involved. The pandemic has been a little disruptive. And my life has kind of gone on in various different ways. So I haven't been as involved, but I would really love to get involved. I see a lot of communities that are coming back. For example, another great community is like Code for Philly. Code for Philly is great because at any given, month, I think they meet like twice a month, maybe once a month. There's always a project to get involved in as a beginner, because they're always doing, community-led projects. So that community I have seen recently, Girl Develop It, doing meetups. I believe there's a presence for like women who code, and there's also a presence, I believe, for minorities in tech, and all sorts of different communities that are ready to support you for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, the group that's ultimately sponsoring our webinar today, One Philadelphia, they're another great resource for tech professionals who are looking to build community. I'm going to share their social media handle in the chat with all of our participants so you can see that. They have great resources. So that could be another group to tap to if you're thinking about reconnecting for sure. So Jobi, I'm going to switch the question up a little bit for you because you have such an interesting position at this point in time, and I want to talk about networking. Networking, the act can be pretty intimidating, I think, especially for young professionals that are just getting into the workforce. And I think the really interesting thing about your role, you're working at CampusESP, which is a local ed tech startup, but it's also you're in this Venture for America role. You're a fellow with Venture for America, and ultimately you have this built-in network of other fellows from across the country. I'm curious if you've leveraged that group at all as you've networked and gotten to know a little bit more about the sector and also just, professionally in general. So two questions there. I guess tell everyone a little bit more about VFA, but then also talk about the network that VFA has really connected you to.
Yeah, no, Jen, that's a great question. So for everyone watching, Venture for America, or VFA, it is an entrepreneurship organization, nonprofit, that connects recent college grads to startups across the United States. And currently they're in, I want to say 12 or 13 cities, right? Mostly on the East Coast, Eastern Midwest. America, but from there, once you get into the fellowship, it's almost kind of like this match program where you pitch different startups within this application, and once you send a pitch, a startup can either accept it or deny it. And from there, if you are accepted, you go through a series of interview processes. For CampusESP, I want to say I did maybe 4 or 5 interviews for them, and it's a bunch of different stuff, right? Mostly one-on-one interviews, and at the end I did a presentation. But for each different company, they probably have their own preference of interviewing. So that's kind of Venture for America in a nutshell. The fellowship program is 2 years long, right? So the idea is hopefully after 2 years, you either learn what it's like to work at a startup and to hopefully garner skills to either become a startup leader or co-founder one day. So that's Venture for America. And for me, I originally worked at this tax SaaS company for a couple of years, and I really enjoyed it there, but was really looking for that next step. So I applied for VFA 2 years after graduation, and I got accepted into their 2021 class. And from there, I've been with CampusESP for about 1.5 years, and it's truly learned a lot. But the cool thing about Venture for America and the program so far is the network, kind of like what Jen was talking about in the beginning. You meet a whole bunch of different folks. There's people who work on the CS side like me, but then there's other folks that work in product management, front-end development, back-end development, people that work in operations, right? And you meet so many different people who spark ideas. One of the biggest things that we talk about in the fellowship is like the ideation process. From there, because of the fellows I've been able to talk to, I have some ideas, but then maybe we might bounce back with each other on, oh, maybe this is a good idea, or maybe this isn't a good idea because X, Y, and Z, right? So it's great to have those conversations. My current roommate is a VFA fellow too. He's a 2022 VFA fellow. And honestly, sometimes we just spitball back and forth talking about, oh, do you think this would be a cool idea? And he's like, yeah, but what do you think about this? And I was like, oh, no, I didn't. And he comes from a different background, right? He is a software engineer. So with those different backgrounds, it's great to have these conversations with folks. And then for me, when it comes to ideas that I have, because I have a bunch of ideas, not always the best, but having these conversations really help ground me to realize, okay, what is actually a problem? Number one, is this a problem that consumers are facing? And then B, how do we develop, what's the problem? And then once we identify the problem, coming up with or ideating a couple solutions, right? So that network has been really cool for that. But then also it's just been nice to meet other people from around the whole country, right? So within at least my class, we have people from California, we have people from Arizona, we have people from the South, from the Mid-Atlantic region. I think I'm the only Philly fellow, but for the Philly folks on the call today, definitely a great program. And I think they're still taking in applicants for their 2023 class. So it's just been a great opportunity. My network has grown immensely just from the past year and a half of being within the VFA community. So I can't recommend it enough.
That's awesome. So tapping into both local and national supports all at the same time. It's a great organization, VFA, for sure. Anshika, I want to come to you and talk to you a little bit about networking too. Tell me your strategies for networking on a college campus. Who are you connecting with at this point in time? It might be your peers, it might be your faculty, maybe there's some alumni stuff, or where are you interested in getting some more supports?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm part of a fraternity called Delta Sigma Pi. It's pretty widely known, but it's specifically for like business majors. So it's a professional fraternity. So we host a lot of professional events. We actually had an event yesterday with people from Vouch and Mahoney. I don't know if you guys know them. They're like a CPA firm here in Philly. They have an office in Center City. But we were talking to them and like I got their business cards. And now I like can contact them and like talk to them because they know me from the event. And so we just do kind of speaker events like that. And these events are open to everyone, but like specifically for us, because we all have to attend them because it's like a requirement bucket sort of system. But it's also nice to just like be connected to peers because these people have done the co-ops. They're in my major. They've done the co-ops. They've gone through the resumes, the interviews, everything. They've like done all of that. And so they can sort of help me in that. I've had like brothers kind of sit down with me and like go through my resume and be like, this is not good. You should have this. You should do that. And it's like much better than a co-op advisor because they've been in those positions. And so they know exactly what these employers are looking for. Same thing with interviews. They've been able to like sit down and do like mock interviews with me. And so that's been really helpful in terms of just figuring out this whole co-op system because it's like very new and like I'm still like 19. I don't really know what's going on. So it's really helpful to have like brothers help me out with that. In terms of like UX stuff, being part of Draft Studios has been really helpful. We've gone to a bunch of different, at least when I was in the Tech and Innovation internship over the summer, we've had a lot of opportunities to connect with like Capital One. We did a webinar with them. We went to XN Technologies, which is like a drone kind of place thing, where we got to see like the drones being made and things like that. We've gone to a bunch of different SEI investments. We saw their office. We got to connect with them. And so we've been to like a bunch of different places where we've also been able to talk to people, connect with them, get their LinkedIn, get their business card, things like that. So that's been really nice. And also there's an organization called Philly Chi. so it's like a UX kind of organization, but for Philly. So I've gone to a couple of their events, and like it's also been nice to connect with UX professionals because I can kind of see where I want my career to go and sort of like, do I want to do this? Like, what's their day in the life and things like that. And so, yeah, I definitely kind of have my foot in the door in many different places, and it's been really nice, especially in the Philly area, because I didn't realize how many connections you can have here.
I love that. You know, I spent a long time working in higher ed and supporting students directly. And that was always my advice to students: use your student status to get into those conversations, to meet folks, because there's a very few professionals when a young student, someone who's going to be new in the career space, is reaching out saying, I'm interested in what you're doing. Will you tell me more? I don't know who would say no, so I use that status for as long as you can, absolutely, to help you open those doors. I think that's fantastic. We had a question come in the chat that's really relevant to this, so I wanted to make sure I brought it up. Specifically, what professional organizations are you part of for networking events, emails, resources? Anshika, you just mentioned a few. I'm going to jump back to Dominique. If you could share a few that come top of mind to you, and Jobi, then I'll go to you. And if you guys wouldn't mind just typing them out, the names of them in the chat, so folks can see them and maybe find them, that would be really great as we talk a little bit more. Just make sure you change your chat to for everyone, so everyone can see the response. So Dominique, what are some of the groups that you're part of?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I'm not as big a part of local tech networking communities anymore. I would really like to get back involved. I am a part of a few like more national networking organizations that give me insight into like opportunities across the country. Specifically, since I am working remotely, I tend to be interested in these type of opportunities across the country. So I'm involved in like Google's networking group, Women Tech Makers. I'm involved in Power to Fly, another like group for women in tech. There's People of Color in Tech, POCIT. And then there was one more that I think I had that I just lost off the tip of my tongue.
Okay.
But yeah, like some of the organizations that kind of help me to know kind of what's going on, some of the larger, bigger type virtual networking opportunities that are out there. And I tend to get like, updates on like jobs and things like that, and newsletters about, what's happening in tech from those places. So.
Awesome. Thank you. If you get a chance to type those in the chat, I'd appreciate it. Folks would look. Jobi, tell me yours. Who are you involved with? What groups?
Yeah, no, only a couple. So I really recommend Philly Startup Leaders and Venture Cafe. I've gone to a couple of their sessions before and have really met awesome people, and the discussions that I've attended have been truly beneficial. I do want to say, Dominique, I'm writing down some of those that you just brought up because I think those are really cool and definitely want to also get involved there. So this is being recorded, right?
It is. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's being recorded. The chat will be recorded too. And Anshika, you listed a bunch when you were talking, but why don't you just go through them again? What were some of those orgs that you're really, really involved with?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the main two are Delta Sigma Pi, which is my professional fraternity, and Philly Chi, which is like a group here on campus that kind of does events related to UX and things like that. And then I have gotten through a lot of networking events through my internship as well. But yeah, that's not like a professional organization.
That's great, though. These are great suggestions for sure. This will be a great resource to folks who are watching now or maybe watching in the future. So, Anshika, I'm going to stay with you for a moment. You're currently interning with Draft Studios, which is this awesome organization in Philadelphia. I'd love for you to tell us all a little bit more about it. But then I want you to tell us a little bit about how are you balancing all of this? So you've got your internship going. Is the internship it's a co-op through Drexel at this point in time? So you're not in classes, or
it's not a co-op.
No, it's an internship. Okay. So this is even a bigger question then. So you have this internship on top of classes, on top of everything else going on in your life. How are you balancing all of this? Yeah. So talk to us a little bit more about that, but tell us about Draft Studios first.
Yeah, absolutely. So Draft Studios is a web development agency that is comprised of like underrepresented, talented people in Philadelphia. We're only about 30 people right now. But we've like done a lot. We kind of work with clients, and then so like I specifically help where I work underneath my project manager Lennon, and I help like manage some of the events that we do. I also help with the internship committee, and I work on the product team to help come up with ideas and then kind of validate and ideate them and hopefully build them out into something big. So that's kind of what I do. And then I'm also a liaison between like the product team and the UX team. And so like I kind of help with like the UX research parts of the product team and like things like that. So I'm kind of all over the place, but I really enjoy it. I don't know how I manage everything. I honestly couldn't answer that question. But so I guess like the best answer would be Outlook calendar. So not Google Calendar actually, because I have like a bunch of different emails. So I have like 4 different emails. And so like Outlook calendar puts all the emails in like one thing.
Yeah.
Google Calendar doesn't do that because like my work email and my personal email, they're both Gmails, but they still won't like stay on the same. I don't know why, but it just doesn't work. And so I use Outlook calendar for that. And so that's been really helpful because I'll get a notification 10 minutes before anything's supposed to start. Like you're supposed to be here. And I'll also use Notion as well, which is like an organizational tool. I like make sure like all my information's in there. I've had like for school assignments, I'll make sure that like every single assignment's in there, and I'll get like notifications like a couple days before, like, hey, you need to do this, you need to do this. And so I've used a lot of like organizational tools, and that's been really helpful for me. And so I'd suggest for any students out there, even if you're not involved in a lot of stuff, still use it. It's very helpful just to make sure that you're on top of things, because school will get challenging, things will come up. You want to start applying for like internships and things like that. You want to have a spreadsheet of all the internships you're applying to. What's the status of everything you've applied to? Because you're going to be applying to a lot of places and it's just going to be all over the place. And so I definitely suggest doing that.
Yeah, and implementing some of those organizational systems will carry forward when you start, your first full-time career, because you're going to need to use all of that all the time for sure. So right now it's an internship, full load of classes. When does co-op start for you?
So I'm already starting the co-op system right now. So I've like applied, I've gotten my interview requests, and now I kind of have to do my interviews that I've gotten. So co-op starts for me like end of March, and then it goes until end of September.
You're the spring summer co-op cycle. This will be your first co-op? Exciting. That is super exciting. Okay, good. So staying on this topic of balancing a lot of different stuff that, our lives are so full these days, but, the tech sector is known for its flexible work arrangements. In many cases, long before the pandemic kind of made that the norm across lots of different organizations. So I'm curious, we'll just go to each one of you. If you can each share the status of your work arrangement. Are you fully remote? Are you in person? Are you hybrid? How does that ultimately look for you? How do you like it? How do you like that current work environment? And how are you finding some balance between all of this? So we'll switch it up a little bit. Jobi, why don't we go to you first? Tell us what your current kind of work arrangement is.
Yeah, so currently it's a hybrid schedule. I tend to work from home on Mondays and Fridays, and I'm in the office today. So I'll try to come to the office on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. But really, it's kind of based on my schedule. So if I have a ton of back-to-back meetings, I might just stay home, to be honest, because it's easier for me to do those calls at home as opposed to coming to the office, because we don't have dedicated rooms. It's a lot of shared spaces and shared phone booths. So that might be a lot if I have a lot of back-to-back calls. So I do have the flexibility to say, okay, maybe I want to work in the office on a Monday and maybe I'll work from home on a Tuesday. But I do like coming into the office a couple of days a week, just because it's some new faces that I can see and have conversations with, and honestly, it makes the day go by quicker as opposed to and I do enjoy the flexibility of working from home, but having that kind of happy medium really helps me stay productive, and then just helps me stay on track, because otherwise working from home every day is a lot for me. I need some bits of social interaction in my day to kind of coincide with my work lifestyle. So mostly a hybrid schedule, but we'll see also, right, with the weather, and if it's rainy or snowing outside, I'll stay home too. It's not like a strict schedule, but I'll come in and out of the office.
Do you have set work hours?
So the expectation at Campus ESP is if you're coming to the office, try to get in by 9:30, but there's no set hours. I could come in as early as I want and I could leave later. The expectation is to get your work done, right? But it's not like you're here 9 to 5, because sometimes you're in the office way later than 5, and then sometimes you don't have to stay that late, right? It really depends on the day to day.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it sounds like you're striking a good balance there. Dominique, tell me a little bit more about your arrangement.
Yeah, I work completely remote. It was something that I always wanted. I definitely always wanted to be able to work completely remotely because I just felt like it would fit in really well with family life later down the line. I don't think I necessarily expected working fully remotely this early in my career, but certainly the pandemic propelled that. In the middle of the pandemic, I found this new job at Elastic, and Elastic happens to be a globally distributed company that has been that way since its founding. So they know how to do remote, and they know how to do it well, and they've been doing it for a very long time. And there's certainly pros and cons to it. So I get to work with people all across the world. I have people on my team from London, from Berlin, Germany, from Spain, someone in Rome. I work with someone else in Seattle, someone else in Pennsylvania, and someone in Minnesota. So I get to really kind of dive into other people's cultures. We like to share. I usually will ask like in our like little social chat about like all different things related to their cultures and stuff like that. So that's really, really fun. It can be a huge challenge, especially working like that globally distributed. I have to be mindful of people's schedules. I have to make sure that when I need something from someone in Germany, I'm connecting with them early in the morning. Obviously, it gives me the flexibility to be able to care for myself and kind of set my schedule the way I want, in terms of being able to, to be home, to have breakfast and a healthy lunch and be home and get dinner started like early and things like that. So that's great. I am a little bit introverted, so like a lot of times it can feel nice to be at home all the time because of my introversion, but also like having worked in an office before, it was pretty helpful for me to be able to get out and be social and have that like built-in like social network from work. So it's been an adjustment for me to like kind of figure out what my social life looks like, not being in person with people as much anymore. But that just gives me the opportunities to prioritize other types of communities in my life, like my family and other outside of work friends and things like that. So that's great. It gives me the opportunity to travel a lot too, because we're having a all hands meeting in Orlando, so that's really cool. But yeah, it's just kind of pros and cons. I mean,
yeah, no, that's great.
yeah.
Early on at my time at Campus Philly, and we are a remote organization, come together a lot in person with purpose and intention. But I remember talking to some colleagues at Elastic. They're one of our corporate partners, and I made the joke. I said, it makes sense that you have this distributed model because Elastic is so flexible. I mean, and it's true though. You are doing it like the organization has this tremendous culture around being a remote org, and they really are setting the standard for best in class around some of that work. So many other companies should take a look at Elastic and learn from what they're doing there, because they've been doing it for a long time. So for sure. So Anshika, tell me a little bit more about your work status. Where are you having your internship at this point in time?
Yeah, so our internship is completely remote. It is kind of nice that the building that we're at is like on campus. Well, not like basically on campus. So I can like, if I have to go into the office, I can just like walk there. It's like a 5-10 minute walk, which is really, really nice. But I'm completely remote. I think almost everyone is, because like my manager's working in like some college that's like in Lancaster, PA. So like obviously he won't be able to like come to stuff, but we do have like in-person events and like hybrid events. So like we'll have an event at the end of every month just so that everyone kind of get together and like bond and do things like that. And so for those events, they are in person. And so that's like nice that we still get to see everyone, but then also like our day-to-day work is like remote.
Awesome. So really such kind of different experiences for sure. There really is, I think, a lot of opportunity to choose not only, the type of work you want to be doing, but where you want to be doing the work and in what kind of context in the tech sector. So we've got a couple questions that have come in the chat over the last couple minutes. And for folks that are listening online, feel free to put your questions in the Q&A box. That's the box that's activated for this chat. You can type your questions right in there and I'll be sure to ask them. We had a question come in that says, what was your inspiration or introduction to the world of tech that made you realize a career in this field was possible? It's a little bit of a different way of asking the question that I asked around, what was your aha moment? So does anyone have anything that they can point to that was really inspirational or their kind of key introduction to the world of tech that made you realize this career path was for you?
I think if I step in, I think just being surrounded by colleagues who didn't major in a lot of what they're doing for their career and profession, right? So there are our current VP of product. She's also a VFA fellow. She did not study anything in that sphere, right? But she was able to learn how to be successful in that kind of role and moved up kind of into that role within our company. And then for me, not having that technical background in the beginning, I was like, oh no, I don't know if this is for me, right? I didn't study this in my undergrad, but being surrounded by folks like that who were able to pivot their career, try different things, and then also still try different things later on, I think inspired me to say, why not? If it's something that interests me, then I think I'm inspired to go down that path. So I think I'm going in a loop here, but essentially because of all these people that I've known and that they have had these success stories of being able to move into a career or an occupation that they may have not studied for previously, that made me feel more comfortable jumping into the tech world as opposed to before, maybe not as much.
Yeah, that resonates for sure. Dominique, Anshika, any other thoughts to add to that one?
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely agree with Jobi. Like, I think as soon as I got involved in some of those groups, specifically Girl Develop It, and I saw like some of the teachers who were teaching the classes, I just met a lot of really diverse women working in tech. And so I was able to see people like who look like me. And I was very inspired by them. I was like, yeah, like girl crush kind of situation. Like, so I realized because of like, yeah, their stories that I could do this as well. I also mentioned earlier too, that like the tech itself was like really one of the aspects of like what like propelled me into really wanting to do this. Like I just loved it when I actually got into it. I think of sites that like made me like that really inspire me and still inspire me today. Like there's a website that like highlights really cool, websites called Code Drops. I'll put it in the chat, but like it was really cool to see like very, very cool like UX design and like, yeah, I would just look for really, really interesting websites that just had cool 3D effects or, other types of cool effects. And I just like wanted to do that. I just wanted to be able to delight people in the same way that like I felt delighted by like these like really cool websites. So I think like just the tech itself plus like the people who were creating it, like
yeah, all your sheroes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really great. Anshika, how about anything to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that like I've always known that like I've wanted to go into the tech space, or at least just because I've had a lot of family and friends in the tech space doing stuff, especially in like the CS sort of area. But I didn't really know what I liked until I did this project where like, I don't know if you guys know what FBLA is. It's Future Business Leaders of America. It's like a club in high school and some colleges have it as well as like a fraternity. But basically you go to competitions and you compete in different business sectors. And so we chose e-business, the one that me and my partner did, but we decided to code our website rather than just like having a website on Wix or Squarespace. And I think doing that was really interesting because it was the first time I really got into like coding and like designing websites and kind of figuring out what I like and what I don't like. And so that was a really fun experience. And so that's what kind of made me realize I maybe want to go into UX. And then from UX, it went to like product management. And so I think that was my like first introduction and inspiration into all this. And I'm really glad that happened because now I'm here and I'm really enjoying what I'm doing.
That's awesome. That's a great path. And, you know, and I think, and I wonder, so we've heard both Dominique and Jobi talk about, you know, they did not major in anything CS related. That was not the initial goal or plan. And all three of you have talked about these additional credentialing and training and certificates that you've, you know, on your own, it sounds like sought out and accomplished. Can you guys talk a little bit more about that? I mean, what were those certifications? Where did you find them? You know, what was the impetus to even pursue them in the first place?
So the certification that I did was a Google UX professional certification, just because I was moving away from the major. And so I wanted to make sure my UX skills were still up to par. And I'd heard a lot about this certification and people have even found jobs with it without like a degree in UX or anything. And so that was like one of the bigger ones I did. And then other than that, there's these certifications that I did because I was a research assistant at like NJIT, so they have like a social interaction lab, which kind of helped me with like my UX research. And so those certifications allowed me to go into research, do some usability testing, do some like just user interviews with people, whether that was after or before our product was made. And so that was really helpful in learning like the different research practices and things like that, because like I was in high school, so it was very like new to everything. So those are the certifications I did that really helped me in my journey.
Yeah.
Thanks, Anshika. Jobi, Dominique?
Yeah, for me, I think this goes back to my previous role at my old company, right? I was still working in consulting, but I wanted to make the jump into a more analytical career. And in my undergrad, I did a little bit of work in management information systems, and we used tools like Tableau, but this company used Microsoft Power BI, which is very similar, but a little different. So I, out of just pure curiosity and interest, started picking it up, worked with the finance team, and made it a goal, my own goal. It wasn't even a company MBO or anything, but I decided to get certified. I did the DA 100, passed that, and through there, I was able to pick up new career opportunities, right? I owned the data analytics and visualizations for their customer success team, right? I moved on to different roles, and that gave me a sense of responsibility and then also ownership. And then from there, I was able to take those experiences into my current role when it comes to data analytics and creating visualizations with the tools I have at my disposal. So I think that's the big one really that has helped me in my career so far, but it's just that pure curiosity of, oh, I want to learn how this works and I want to prove that I know how this works too.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Dominique?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I kind of started out trying to learn a little bit to be able to do my job as a marketing communications kind of management position like a little bit better. So I started with Code Academy, and I went to a website called Udemy where you can buy like user-generated content, like professional engineers will make like classes and stuff like that. So I bought like a class from there, and I started doing that. That is when I started finding the Girl Develop It classes locally as well. And so I did those. So I kind of like pieced all of my knowledge together over the course of really like a year, honestly, from all of those different like piecemeal kind of programs. And that's when I started getting more and more involved in the tech community in Philadelphia. Because of my involvement in the tech community in Philadelphia, I was actually recruited by a coding bootcamp in Delaware for a professional role with them to be like a community manager for them. They saw my interest in nonprofits plus my interest in the tech community, so it was a natural fit. So I was actually working for them for about a year doing community management, which really meant like recruiting new students to the boot camp. So over my course of a year, having like worked with aspiring technologists to help them start, careers in software engineering, and seeing all of their incredible outcomes, after that year was when I was like, oh, like, yeah, I really want to stop helping people get into programming and become a software engineer myself. And so I saw that the bootcamp model worked for a lot of people but I had a very specific goal in mind. The bootcamp I worked for taught a specific type of technology, and I knew that I really wanted to study JavaScript in particular. So I quit my role there, and I decided to attend a 3-month JavaScript bootcamp in Dallas, Texas, and just spent all of my time, all of my waking hours over the next 3 months just trying to learn the code, and did a few projects there, 2 projects plus like a group project. And after that, just was able to kind of showcase my skills to employers and got a job quickly after that. So I'm definitely, you know, like a huge supporter of like, you know, boot camp type education. I have like this weird, interesting background where I've like worked for a boot camp, went to a boot camp, and then actually that boot camp that I had worked for previously recruited me back for like 6 months, and I worked as an instructor there after I had like started working professionally as a software engineer. So I have this really weird, interesting relationship to boot camp, like education. And also my husband's also like in a boot camp right now. So like
Boot camps all over.
I love boot camps. They're pretty great, especially when you you know, make that decision that you want to commit to yourself that you're going to become a software engineer. So
Yeah, and that kind of concise experience, you know you're going to go in and you're going to come out with a new hard skill. That's awesome. So I've got one more question in the chat here, and I'm also recognizing all of the great advice you guys have been sharing in the chat. I think most of you only have host and panelist on. You need to change your chat to everyone can see your chat. I'll go back and re-amplify your messages. Don't worry about that. I'll do it now while you're talking. But if you have anything else, make sure you put it for everyone. But the last question I have before we wrap up the panel is just quickly to go through, and we'll start with Anshika. We'll start with you, and then we'll go Jobi, and we'll come back to Dominique. What's the most exciting or interesting tech-related project that you've worked on so far?
So I haven't worked on a lot of tech projects, obviously, but over the summer in the tech and innovation internship I did with Draft Studios, we did a Think Like a Founder project, which was essentially coming up with a startup idea and then creating a no-code app for it. So we went through the whole process where we like created our problem statements, and then we like ideated and like validated them, and then we kind of figured out which one we liked the best and had the most resources for, and then we did our interviews, and then like we did our research, and then we created our information architecture and like all this kind of stuff. And so that was my favorite project. So what we did was we did Soul Hair, which was an app for people who have curly hair, as you can tell. But people who have curly hair or natural hair, because it's very difficult for them to find products, and it's very expensive, and like finding what techniques and styles and processes, and there's so much information online, but you want something that's specific to you. So we had like a personalized quiz that you could take, and then after you took the quiz, you would get like what products would fit in your budget, what styles you should use based off what your hair type is, and things like that. And so it was like we like created the entire thing in Figma. Jocelyn, the UX designer on our team, did an amazing job like designing the whole thing, and I helped her out a little bit as well where she needed it. But overall, it was a great experience, and we also presented it at the end of the internship, and I really loved that project because it was the first time that I fully like went into the whole thing, kind of going through the processes of it. And because I was the project manager on the team, it was the first time I got to like manage everything, and this is basically what I want to do as like my final sort of career. And so that was really nice and enlightening to be in that position.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing all that. Jobi, how about you?
Yeah, so for me, not so much on the development side of things, but coming from the customer success world, last year in the earlier part of this year, I was working on a project in which we were releasing a new product to our I guess, menu of items you can select from CampusESP, right? And we released it, but on the CS side, from go live to actual introduction to customers, me and a couple other members of the CS team worked on, okay, how are we actually going to implement this? How are we going to present it to customers? And then how are we going to make sure that this product actually succeeds in terms of actual implementation and the content we're driving to those folks, right? So for example, with CampusESP, we mostly drive content to families, but this new product was sending out emails and announcements to students, hoping that they would invite and drive those families and their parents and supporters back into CampusESP. And that was to generate new contacts for colleges who might not have those parent information or contact information within their CRM system, right? So this was supposed to be a value add for those campuses who might not have identified those families or family members or supporters in their system, and to be able to increase that, add them back to their CRM so that they can be included in that messaging for their students, right? And then from our end, taking a product that is made, but then making sure that, okay, now that it's built, how do we make sure that it actually works and does what's intended when customers use it? So that was a long process, and there's a lot of iterations. We the first go around, it was not the best, right? We learned a lot from there, but from that first iteration, we actually did some interviews with college students and some high school students to see what resonated with them in terms of our messaging and communications, and then also the frequency of messaging out to these students. So there's a lot of different things and quirks that go around to, now that you have a product, how do we make it actually be successful? And that was really exciting for me to be involved with something that went from ideation, was developed, and now, okay, how do we present this to customers? So that was something that I never experienced before, and really loved being a part of that.
Yeah, you really got to see it from conceptualization to launch. That's awesome. That's awesome. So Dominique, how about you? What was the most exciting or interesting tech related project you've worked on?
Yeah, right now I'm working on testing software, which doesn't sound that exciting, but is actually super cool. It's great because right now I work on a lot of software that is meant to be used by software engineers to validate that their apps are working and performing as they expect it to. So it feels like a great way to like give back again to this like community that I've been a part of. Yeah, I don't really know how to describe this in like a interesting way, but it's really great because I get to work on like browser automated testing. So I'm working currently on like an actual browser automation like library that allows you to kind of write scripts that will start up a web browser for you and then step through your website the way that you would expect a user to work through it. This is particularly like, critical for businesses currently with the, upcoming like Black Friday season and Christmas and holiday season, to make sure that their websites are performing as they expect it to be performing, to make sure that their checkout flow is working as they expect it to be working. And so I work on software now that enables, businesses to kind of write scripts that can step through those user flows and make sure that they are not only working properly, but also that they're performant. What's really great about the technology is it also collects critical metrics for your website, such as, the time it takes to load and like other types of metrics that are critical in measuring kind of the perceived performance of your website. So that like the actual engineers can kind of take that information back and do optimizations to increase their web performance. So yeah,
that's cool. It's
great.
You're clearly super excited about it. That's awesome. And it obviously for the user, it makes a big impact for sure. We have just about 1 minute. So I want to go through everybody one more time. And I just want you to give your one piece of career advice for the aspiring tech professional that's on the line or might listen to this presentation a little bit later. What's that one piece of advice you'd give them? Why don't we start, Jobi? Why don't we start with you?
Yeah. Quick advice, just be open-minded, right? There's a bunch of different opportunities that can come your way, and it might not be what you expect, but eventually you'll find something that you truly enjoy. And it might be something that you didn't plan for. So yeah, just keep an open mind.
Awesome. Anshika.
I agree, keep an open mind, but also network, get out there, talk to people. Like if you're interested in something, there will be someone out there who wants to help you with it. Like on LinkedIn, I follow a bunch of like UX hashtags. I do product management hashtags. I always want to see like what's the new thing. Tech is always changing. you never know what's going to happen next. So kind of just stay updated on that and network with as many people as you can.
Awesome. And Dominique, close us out.
Yeah, I again second everything everyone has said. Certainly networking community is incredibly key, being open and flexible. I also think that once you've kind of maybe figured out what you want your next step to be, for me, one of the most critical things in my career was really just committing to myself that I was going to work through doing this, to work through whatever steps were necessary to get from point A to point B, and just having that faith and trust in myself. That I would be able to navigate the difficult, complex challenges that came with it. And certainly the community helped me to do that. So yeah, just believing in yourself, really committing to yourself that you're going to kind of take on this challenge and see it all the way through.
That's great advice and a great note to end on. Thank you to all three of you for your time today. Again, today's panel was brought to you by One Philadelphia. One Philadelphia is here to unlock the potential of Philadelphians of all ages and create an equitable tech community. I'm Jen Keeby from Campus Philly. Tech Innovation Weekend is just getting started. We're the first event. It continues throughout the entire weekend. So I shared a link in the chat. There's lots of more events for you to go ahead and sign up for. So thank you again for being with us today, and we hope you enjoyed our presentation.